The pricing, which is an important constituent of marketing strategy, an important element of marketing mix. Now, pricing and product, both, when you look at, can serve as a means of competitive advantage. Now, what exactly is competitive advantage? Competitive advantage is a factor that puts you ahead of your competitors. Competitive advantage is a factor that would help you to stay ahead of your competitors, that will help you to fight fierce rivalry, that will help you to capture market share at a quick pace. So every company, every organization, every product should have competitive advantage. And in the absence of competitive advantage, survival becomes challenging and you will become just like any ordinary company, any ordinary product. Therefore, developing competitive advantage is extremely crucial for the success of the organization. Now, in order to develop this competitive advantage, a company can either focus on its product or it can also focus on its pricing strategy, because these are the two popular means of gaining competitive advantage. Couple of years back, I would rather say a couple of decades back, when government of India decided to go for digitization of cable services. Earlier, we used to watch most of the TV channels and cable TV through the analog mode. We used to have so-called the cable walas. So we used to come and install cable at home. And the concept was they would come for a monthly collection and we had to pay. Unfortunately, this system had a lot of flaws, a lot of issues. The service was absolutely substandard. The channels were limited. A lot of issues were there with this so-called personal cable walas. And then came a new era in which the government of India decided and passed the digitization of cable services. The government of India passed a bill in the parliament which mandated that all the people in India who are willing to watch television, who are willing to have a cable connection, will have it through a digital signal for which you have to install either a set-top box, so using the conventional cable connection, the same method. In addition to that, you have to just install a set-top box. The cable wire will get connected to the set-top box, and set-top box can watch all your favorite channels. Set-top box is connected to the television. So this was the first option. And obviously, the new option was also to go for a direct to home satellite based cable services in which you have a dish set up on your terrace. And then you also have a set up box attached to the dish. So you get direct signal from your dish, and the quality, the viewing experience was absolutely seamless. So this was a new rule. So government of India said if you want to watch cable, the old system would not work out now. So you have to have a setup box. So what happened? This law in itself led to creation of a lot of business opportunities. A lot of marketers venture into this segment. So we had the first company to launch the so-called dish antenna-based cable service was actually Doordarshan. Doordarshan has a product called D2D, uh, owned by the Prasar Bharati. But anyways, who watches Doordarshan, right? So especially in the context of urban India, Doordarshan has a very poor reach and coverage. The first private company to venture into this business and launch a satellite dish and a set-top based cable service was Dish TV. So Dish TV did establish itself in a quick span of time, and at that point in time, the product was only accessible by the elite. So not many had a Dish TV because it was quite expensive when it was initially launched. But then what, you know how competition works. Once a product is successful in the market, you will have flood of companies trying to imitate and trying to enter into the same business. And that's what happened here in this case also. So we had series flood of companies venturing into cable, direct to home cable service business. So we had Sun, we had Airtel, we had Videocon, we had Reliance also, in fact. So one after other, we had companies venturing into the business. Now the question was, since we have so many different companies, which one to buy, which one not to buy, which one to opt for, and which one not to opt for. As a customer, you always have a decision to make when the choice given to you is quite wide and exhaustive. So companies, in order to make a mark, companies in order to sustain the competition, had to trigger the price wars. And this was done first by South Indian or Tamil Nadu based Sun Network. So Sun Network owns Sun D2H, and they were the one who actually started this price war, and they came up with an offer that in 499 rupees or 999 rupees, there are two different offers in which you get a complete set of box, a satellite dish, and you get subscription to all the channels what they were offering free for a month. And we Indians, what happens to us whenever we hear the word free, right? Because as I mentioned in the preceding classes also, that Indian customers are value seekers. They want maximum benefit for the price what they pay. And this offer was something which customers could not avoid. And Sun B2H in a short span of time added millions of customers just because of price. So that's the magic what pricing can do. Pricing can change the fortunes of the company. Pricing can put company ahead of its competitors. That's the magic what pricing policy does. And that's what Sun did using low cost pricing strategy. It was able to add millions of customers within a short duration of time. But you know how competition works. When your competitor is offering product at a lower price, you cannot keep quiet. So you have to also follow the footsteps. And this is where the price war began. Slowly, all the companies started slashing the prices because they were more into luring the customers by giving one or the other offers. So all the companies, whether it was Sky, Airtel, Videocon, uh, Reliance, all these companies, in order to compete with the pricing strategy of Sun Network or Sun D2H, did slash the prices. But the question is, to what extent can you keep giving discounts? To what extent can you reduce your prices? And most important question, how long? Because at certain point in time when you go and compromise on the pricing, definitely you will not be able to sustain, neither you'll be able to make any profits. So your losses gets accumulated, and one point in time the losses are unbearable. As a result of this, you have to shut down your operation. So that is usually happens for those companies who continue to give offers and discounts and whose profitability continues to decline. Therefore, companies cannot use pricing strategy as a weapon, pricing strategy as a means to fight competition for a very long time. Pricing strategy works as a wonders. It does gives the company an edge. It does help the company to quickly capture the market, but this is not a very long-term strategy. This is a short-term strategy. So in long term, if a company wants to be a dominant player and be a market leader, should rather focus on developing innovative products rather than focusing on pricing. Pricing helps in short term, but long term it won't sustain. Therefore, that's the reason in the beginning of the session I said that competitive advantage either comes from pricing or it comes from product. So there are companies who come up with innovative products, and if the product is innovative, unique, one of its kind, then you don't have to lose the customer. By looking at the nature of the product itself, customer will fall in love with the product, and definitely there will be a great demand. That is something what Tata Sky did. So Tata Sky, which is a joint venture between Tata Sons India and British Sky Broadcasting Limited. So British Sky Broadcasting Limited is from UK. So Sky is basically a UK-based cable service company, which is there for a long time in the market. And as far as the technology used by Sky is concerned, it is unmatchable. They use the latest technology. They have their own satellites in the space. So when it comes to technology, they are at the forefront. And that's another reason why Tata decided to collaborate with them and offer direct-to-home cable services in India under the brand name Tata Sky. So what happened when these price wars were trickling down, and at one point in time, most of the companies became silent about pricing after lowering them again and again. That is when Tata changed the direction by launching a new product called set-top box with recording facility, which means a box that can not only show you quality picture, sound, but also has the capability of recording your favorite programs. So this product turned out to be a quite a sensational product for Indian market, wherein we have limited televisions at home and different people want to watch different programs at the same time. So this turned out to be a blessing feature for Indians because they can now record their program and watch it later. So the moment Tata came up with this product, even other companies started following the pathway of what Tata was traveling on, and they also came up with a similar set-top box. What happened? One after other, new box were launched from remote recording, from recording to remote recording to HD, ultra HD set-top boxes. So that is what happens when you have tough competition. Either you have to use product advantage or price advantage as a strategy to combat. Certainly, there is no denial that pricing plays an important role in the success of the organization. And you being a student and also a customer are aware of certain products who have actually made their journey into the world of marketing with the help of pricing strategy. And one of the player which did use pricing strategy to its advantage in the recent time is Geo, right? So there's a new king of telecom in India, Reliance Jio Infocom, the wireless carrier created by a renowned industrialist, which you are familiar with, also known as the richest man in India, Mukesh Ambani, has seems to be telecom battle and now is leading the industry, right? In terms of number of customers, what it has captured. So Jio did use different strategies revolving around pricing. So initially the product was given free, then the product was given at a very affordable nominal price, and at this nominal price, the customers were given wide range of services. Customers were given access to a lot of premium apps like Geo Cinema, Geo Music, Geo Wallet, right? So their complete portfolio of apps were also given access at such a low prices. So because of this, only Geo was able to capture market quickly within a short duration of time. So that's the kind of magic what pricing strategy. Yes. So let's quickly look at the definition. And definition is of obviously quite simple and sensible. The first definition on the slide says price is the value in monetary terms required to purchase a product or a service. So that's the amount of money what to pay to the market to acquire product or a service. That's what pricing in simple terms means. Now, when we say pricing strategy or pricing decisions, so-called pricing decisions incorporates three important aspects. One is the pricing policy, second one is the discounts, and third one is the credit policy. So all these three combined together is said to be part of the pricing decisions. So first of all, you need to decide what kind of a pricing policy you want to have. So what kind of a pricing policy you want to have depends on numerous factors. In case if you're a new company, definitely you want to first make a mark in the market. So you might use penetration pricing policy, in which the prices are kept low in the initial phase to attract the customers. You have to decide what kind of a pricing policy you want to use. And this pricing policy is not static, it might change depending on the market needs and your personal requirements. So once you form a pricing policy, it is subject to change depending on the external and internal factors. So pricing policy is the first aspect. The pricing policy, if I would say that pricing policy is the method of determining the prices of a company's product or services based on cost of production, based on how much profit you want to earn. So pricing policy primarily deals with deciding the price. Then comes your discounts, which play an important role in stimulating customers, plays an important role in driving sales. And discounts, mind you, is not only for customers, it is also for the other intermediaries involved in the distribution channel. So manufacturer may offer discount to the distributors, distributors may offer discount to the wholesalers, wholesalers may also offer discount in order to attract retailers to buy from them. So discount is applicable for all the intermediaries. It's an important tool to quickly attract the customers. Then you have credit terms. Now this comes into picture between uh, the entities involved in the distribution process. So manufacturer sells goods to the distributor. So manufacturer may have certain credit terms which allows uh, so credit terms basically revolves around decisions pertaining to what should be the duration of credit, how long the credit should be given, on what basis the credit should be given. So these are some of the aspects which is covered in the credit policy because as a organization, in order to give credit to wholesalers, retailers, distributors, you need to have a well-defined policy as to who's entitled, who's eligible, what are the criteria for giving credit. Otherwise, what will happen? You will end up giving credit to uh, retailers and wholesalers who might not pay you back, and this will lead to severe losses. So, if your credit terms are good, if they are attractive, definitely you will have more and more wholesalers, retailers, and distributors who would like to tie up with you. So, this is also an important aspect of the pricing decision. Now, how do you decide the price? This is something which needs to be examined thoroughly. On what basis? Imagine the entire class of yours is divided into 10 teams, and you're given a task that for the next academic year, you are the team which is responsible for deciding the college fee. If you're given the task of deciding the college fee, and if you're made in charge of deciding the college fee, I would definitely like to know on what basis, on what grounds keeping in what kind of parameters would you come to a conclusion that okay, BCom program, the fee you can charge for this is so much. The BBA program, this is the fee what you can charge. On what basis, on what grounds are you arriving at a certain price point? What is the source? What is the base for deciding the price? What basis do you decide the price? What are the factors you will keep in mind before deciding the price? So that is what we are about to discuss. So first, let's answer quickly the question which I have asked to you. If you have to decide the fees of BCom or BBA program for your college, on what basis do you decide? What are the factors you will take into account? So do message me on Teams as to what are some of the factors you will consider before deciding the college fee. Right. So this is similar to what companies also do. It's an important exercise which is undertaken, and having a price which is on the higher side, which means overcharging, exorbitant pricing, can immediately impact your demand. So you might definitely lose customers and lose your sales in case if your pricing is quite exorbitant. So that is something which you should avoid. On the other hand, keeping the prices too low also would affect your profitability and your financial performance in the long term. So you need to strike a balance and you ensure that the pricing is done properly. So what are the factors that needs to be considered before deciding the price? So all these factors are broadly classified into two segments. One is the internal factors, and the next category includes the external factors. So what are the internal factors that are taken into account while deciding pricing policy? So the first and the foremost important factor, which is scrutinized, is the organizational consideration, or you can also say organizational policy. So what do you mean by organizational policy or organizational consideration? It basically means what is the philosophy of your organization? What is the vision and what is the mission of your organization? Because any exercise which you undertake, any decision which you make in business should help you to achieve your vision and you should be able to accomplish your vision. And therefore, pricing policy also plays an important role in deciding the in achieving the vision and mission of the organization. So if your vision is to become a market leader in a particular industry, let's say you're a car company and you're saying that my vision is to become India's leading car maker, India's number one car maker. So how do you become number one in any segment? Forget about car. In any field, in any segment, if you want to achieve number one position, the criteria is simple. You need to have highest market share. So whoever sells highest quantity becomes the market leader. That's how you become number one. So it all depends on sales. So if you say that you want to become India's leading company, India's number one company, obviously in order to achieve this vision of being number one, you need to work out on your pricing strategy. So what is your organizational strategy? Or are you an organization which is into uh, a belief that profits are important, but definitely you are an organization probably who might believe in ethical pricing, in which you don't want to keep high profit margins, but rather you just want to keep a basic profit margin and you want to cater to various segments of the society. So you have more social concern. You're an organization who always do business on certain ethical principles. So for you, ethics are more important than anything else. So if you have a philosophy wherein you are an organization which wants to establish trust amongst the public, wherein you want to prove that you're a company which does not overcharges, but rather gives value for money products. In such a case, obviously, you need to keep your pricing reasonable. So it all depends on your philosophy. What is the philosophy you follow in your business and other considerations also. So it also depends on certain consideration, which includes how strong is your marketing department. So if your marketing department is strong, you have a lot of strategies in place to promote your product, to ensure that the product reaches to different corners, then that also helps you as a company to quickly spread over the market or to quickly capture the market. You don't have to totally be dependent only on the pricing strategy to do the magic. Likewise, it also depends on your R&D department. If your R&D department has come up with exceptionally unique products, then you don't have to bother about pricing at all because you can charge a very high price and customer would be willing to pay it because your product in itself has certain essential features. It also depends on the technology. So if you have some latest technology, then obviously you can charge a premium price. So these are some of the internal consideration, which not just includes philosophy, but also includes how good your resources are. So if your resources are well placed, then you can demand a premium price. The second important internal factor that needs to be considered is the marketing mix. So price is only one of the marketing mix tools, right? You know what marketing mix is made up of. Of course, marketing mix is a combination of product, place, promotion, right? And all this constitutes the marketing mix. And pricing strategies are designed to produce satisfying exchanges with predefined customers. So therefore, pricing decisions must coordinate with all the other piece of the marketing. So it should be in sync, in tune with the other piece. So marketer must consider the total marketing mix when setting the price, and price changes alone does not influence customer buying. But other factors such as sales promotion, aggressive distribution campaigning, innovative products can also quickly capture the attention of the customers. So in case if you think that okay, by only reducing the price or by lowering the price, you can do the magic and quickly become the market leader. Uh, Yes, it does help, but sometimes when your product itself is not good, when your product is bad, how do you expect customers to buy even at a lower price? Likewise, you have kept the pricing low, but unfortunately, product is not available most of the time because you have completely failed to garner and establish a good distribution network. So in this case, also your product fails. Or let's say your pricing is good, your product is also excellent, you have good set of distributors who are doing a good job, but unfortunately, you have failed in communicating about your product to customers. Customer does not know that your product exists in the market. So that is where you have completely failed on the last P, which is promotion. So the point here is only having good pricing strategy alone would not help, but rather you should also focus on the rest of the three P's of the marketing also, right? So that is also essential. Product uniqueness. This is something which companies always try to achieve. But unfortunately, what happens is this uniqueness gets diluted over a period of time. Because once you come up with a unique product, the product does not remain unique for a very long period of time because the competitors will try to imitate your product. Or in some cases, they will try to improvise. That means you would have developed a unique product, but they would probably come up with some more additional features and make the product even more better. So product uniqueness does not remain forever. But yes, in a short period of time, when your product is completely new, something which is not there in the market at all, that is where customers are highly interested to buy it because they have never seen such a unique product. And even if you charge a hefty premium price, customers would definitely buy because you know that such product does not exist in the market. So product uniqueness does help you to charge a premium price and make higher profits. So that's the advantage. And cost of production, this is something which is not new, and since you people are also studying cost accounting, if I'm not wrong, or you will study, you will realize that sometimes it's the inputs that decides the price. So in case if you have limited supply of raw material, there's a shortage of raw material, then obviously you cannot charge a lower price because you are not getting your resources and inputs at an affordable price. So when the input itself is on a higher side, obviously the price what you charge will also shoot up, right? So therefore, cost of production plays an important role, and that is where most of the organization use various techniques, various quality management strategies in order to eliminate the cost, in order to minimize the wastage, and come up with a very try to ensure that the cost of production is as low as possible. So when you keep your cost of production low, then you have that freedom of charging a little higher prices and make more profits. But in case if cost of production is not in your control, it is going beyond what it was estimated. In such cases, what will happen? You would end up setting a price which is on a very higher side, and customers might definitely not like your product at such a price point. So therefore, cost of production also plays an important role, and that's where most of the companies try to eliminate wastage, try to come up with new techniques of manufacturing the same product with an objective of reducing the cost. Another factor is the stage of product life cycle, something which we had discussion in the recent times, and I'm sure you would still be able to relate this to what we are discussing now. In which stage of product life cycle you would keep the pricing low? Will it be in the introduction stage? Will it be in the growth stage? Will it be in maturity stage? Would that be in decline stage? So it all depends. There are no hard and fast rules. It all depends on the company strategy. It also depends on the market conditions. So in case if you have already too many players who are doing same type of business, what you're doing in such a scenario, obviously somebody uh, right in such a scenario, what happens is you have no option but to keep your prices on the lower side, because when you're introducing the product in the market, your product is relatively new, right? And if there is already competitors who are there in the market who has similar kind of products, then you have no option but to keep your pricing low. But let's say you have launched a product in the market for which there are no alternatives, it's completely a new concept. In that case, in the introduction stage itself, you can keep the pricing. So there is no standard format saying that in introduction stage the price should always be high or low. It all depends on the market situation, on the conditions based on which you have to decide. But definitely, what happens is when the company ventures into the next stage, after introduction, there is a growth. So in growth stage, you have maximum competition. Even if your product was new in introduction stage, it had some unique features, but by the time it reaches the growth stage, all the competitors would have already copied your concept and they are now launching with some better features or at a lower price. So in such scenario, especially in the growth stage, you have to slash your prices to make it more competitive and appealing, right? And in case if the product is in decline stage, which means the product has now become outdated, some new technology has come. So in order to get rid of all the stock what you have piled up, again you need to slash your prices. So this is also an important aspect. And next comes your pricing objective. So pricing objective constitutes certain parameters, certain things which you want to quickly achieve. So if your pricing objective is to capture the market quickly and become a market leader, then you may have to keep your pricing competitive. But if your pricing objective is to ensure that you want to offer premium range of luxury products, and your pricing objective should align with the product positioning, which means that if you're saying that your product is quite premium, quite luxury product, then you cannot keep the pricing low. You have to keep the pricing on a very higher side. Only then the pricing will be compatible with the kind of positioning what you want to do. Depth of distribution channel. What this means is the more intermediaries you have to obviously feed them in terms of commission. So obviously, then you have to keep your pricing on higher side because there are too many players who will share who will share the revenue. So you have to offer the money to a lot of intermediaries in between, let's say distributors, wholesalers, retailers. In that case, obviously your price will be high because you have to pay them. Ensure that all the distributors are happy, all the intermediaries are happy, and as a result of this, your price will shoot up. But in case if you don't have multiple intermediaries in your distribution channels and you have only limited or no intermediaries, in that case, definitely you can work out on a good pricing strategy, try to earn more profits on account of absence of too many intermediaries. Okay. These are the complete set of internal factors that influences how much price to be charged. So before we move to the external factors, anybody has any question can go ahead and post it.
Yes, sir, it was pretty much clear.
In case of external factors, these external factors are sometimes not within the control of the organization. So organization may have to constantly monitor these factors in order to make adjustment to the pricing strategies. And in case if the organization is not able to monitor and make necessary adjustments, then the chances of survival becomes quite bleak. Therefore, this factors is something which has to be monitored on a regular basis. So the first factor on the list, as you can see here, product. Supply and demand, which is the basic foundation of deciding the price. Supply and demand is the basic essence of what the pricing has to be. And you have studied both law of supply and law of demand in economics. And you know what happens when the demand is more and when the demand is less, what is its impact on price? And when the supply is less and the supply is more, what is the impact on the price? So this is a very basic, common factor which has direct implication. The basic laws of supply and demand have an obvious influence on pricing strategy. In particular, it is important that you understand whether a change in price will have a large or a small impact on demand. The higher the price of a particular product, the lower will be the demand for it. And likewise, the higher the price, the greater quantity that suppliers will be willing to supply to the market. So supplier wants a higher price. Therefore, inverse relationship does exist between price and demand, and it is obviously a common phenomena which most of you are aware that uh, prices go up, demand goes down. So a company has to somehow do this analysis as to what would be the consequences of any changes that would happen in the supply and demand, and try to ensure that that supply and demand variation does not have severe impact on the price. And by and large, when we look at the current situation, you'd realize that certain things, certain prices have actually gone beyond the control. It has breached the barriers and the prices have escalated. Right at present, there are quite a few commodities which are troubling Indian customers. First one being is the crude oil price, which has actually hit a century almost a few months back and continues to be on the rise. This is something which is quite concerning for Indian economy and for consumers also. Another commodity is your agriculture commodity, tomatoes. So tomatoes have also hit all-time high prices. As a result of this, you know what is being happening. People have come up with an alternative because when the price is too high, people definitely wants to reduce the consumption. So it usually happens every year. We see prices of certain essential agricultural commodities like tomatoes or onions is something which is again most of Indian households are quite familiar with its volatile prices. So in case if any of these commodity prices go up, the initial response is that we try to come up with an alternative and try to avoid consumption. And what happens when over the period of time consumption decreases, automatically the prices will again come down, right? In case of crude oil, yes, we always try to think of an alternative similar to what we do for an agricultural commodities. A lot of people do carpooling, use of public transport to somehow try to avoid paying high amount of money for the product. Therefore, pricing, demand, supply, all these are interlinked. And you know, recently, what has also happened is the car industry, car manufacturing industry, there is an acute shortage of chip. So, chip is an important component of any product, and it is likewise an important component for manufacturing cars. So, the worldwide shortage of chip has actually led to increase in the prices because the component is not available; it is very scarce. So, most of the car manufacturers, on account of shortage of this component, has deliberately increased the prices because the component supply price also has become extremely expensive. So again, supply also has an impact on the pricing. Degree of competition. So depending on whether the competition is severe or whether the competition is moderate or whether there's no competition at all. So this is also something which has an impact on your pricing strategy. So imagine you're a company who hardly has any competitor. In a situation like this, you have complete freedom. You can have a commanding uh, pricing. You can charge whatever you feel like because there are no competitors. Right? So you have that complete freedom of charging a premium price. But on the account of tough competition, you may have to compromise on your profits and offer the product to customers at a very lower prices. So degree of competition also does decides what should be the price. Economic situation prevailing in the economy. So in case if economy is going through a recession or if there is high inflation, both these factors, recession and high inflation, severely impacts consumption, which means people avoid buying anything on account of either having lower income or on account of high prices, high inflation, right? So as a result of this economic conditions, you have to take that into note and try to ensure that in a situation where there is a high inflation in the country, when the consumption has fallen down completely, you may have to come up with certain offers, discounts to lure the customers and to push or drive the sales. Right? So recession, inflation are quite critical and has direct impact on your sales. So most of the companies do use promotion, discounts, offer pricing as important means of attracting the customers when the company when the economy is going through a recession or high inflation. Sometimes government may also intervene and decide what should be the product price. So government technically does not decide price, but actually puts a limits that if you're into certain type of product which government considers to be an essential or an important product, then government may regulate the price. So government may give you directions as to you can't charge the product beyond a certain point. So government may put capping, right? Certain medical devices, certain medicines, government has put capping, which means pharmaceutical companies cannot charge more than the limit what is set by the government. So government also wants to ensure that citizens are not exploited by marketers and what is essential, what is needed to support life, to live a basic normal life, right? To provide essential healthcare, all that the prices are set reasonable. So in such case, marketers cannot do much on this front. The government itself is regulating the prices. So that is where companies always get disappointed that government is unnecessarily interfering in their pricing strategy. But in a country like India, where we follow a mixed economy of economic system, so government has the powers to make decisions and impose sanctions. In fact, in India, we have a concept of regulatory bodies. So each industry has its own regulatory bodies, and regulatory bodies dictate terms which the industry has to follow. So government regulations also play an important role. Now, something which is quite questionable is the next point, which is ethical consideration. I mean, yes, business is meant for making profits. That's the prime and ultimate objective of any business. But shouldn't you be ethical? How many companies do really follow ethics? Um, Unfortunately, because of pandemic, we most of us have not been to multiplexes to watch movies. But when you visit most of the multiplexes, most of these cinema theaters like PVR, INOX, don't you feel or don't you believe they are highly unethical in their pricing strategy? Imagine how much you have to pay for a popcorn, right? Popcorn in multiplexes cost about 500% more than what you get outside in the mall. So pop them at home, make it at home, you can save 1000%, right? So while there is other food and drinks being sold that is more expensive than the retail prices. So that is what multiplexes do. They charge us an exorbitant prices, which is valued very high. So they charge sometimes 300%, 400% more than the actual price, actual fair price. So is it justified? Obviously, it is not. What they are doing is totally unethical. Now they might say that yes, we have to charge such a high price because the rents are high. Yes, but charging 500% more, 1000% more, 800% more, this is totally uncalled for. So a total classic example of how unethical multiplexes are when it comes to charging the prices for the food, right? So they don't have any ethical consideration. So sometimes ethics, even though I did mention external factors are sometimes uncontrollable, but ethics is something which you need to be, which can be under the control of the organization. So organization has to take a call whether they want to follow the fundamental ethics and try to be reasonable, try to be fair. Some companies do this, but don't find, we rarely find companies who actually follow ethical pricing. The next one is suppliers. So suppliers also play an important role in deciding the price. If suppliers are dictating terms, if suppliers are quite demanding, they want a higher commission, they want a higher profit, then obviously the input price will go up. So as a result, you will not have control over your pricing policy, and invariably you have to charge a higher price for your customer because suppliers are not able to supply goods to you at a affordable price. So they're not able to give you raw materials at the price what you are looking for, and you're paying them a higher price. Another very interesting, I would say, in all the factors what we have discussed so far is the last one, consumer behavior. Because ultimately, you should figure out what is the impact of your pricing on the behavior of the consumer. So consumer behavior is again unpredictable, but by doing proper research, you can actually ascertain how a consumer behaves when you charge him a high price, when you're charging him a low price. So what's the impact of pricing on consumer behavior on his buying decisions? Obviously, when we go to multiplexes, even if they charge us 500 rupees for a popcorn, then we have no option because there invariably they don't allow outside food also. There are a lot of restrictions. So you have no option to buy it. That's the kind of behavior we exhibit because we have no choice. We are forced to do so. So we end up buying it, right? So that's something which all these multiplexes have smartly understood. They understood the consumer behavior that if no choice is given, if consumer is forced, they are also willing to pay a higher price, right? But if you give choice, definitely no popcorn would be sold. If the government allows outside food, because there are numerous cases that have been filed in the court of law, right? In Maharashtra, this all started in Maharashtra. So in Maharashtra, consumer organizations who are pro-consumers organization, NGOs, have actually filed a case against PVR, Inox, in the court of law, saying that they're charging unethical price and asking the court to permit customers to carry food inside the auditorium. So court said, why not we allow food inside the auditorium? So government was actually supporting multiplexes, saying that no, for security reasons we can't. So multiplexes said for security reasons we can't. Then court asked, in case if an aeroplane airline can allow outside food for customer to eat, right? If you travel in an airline, you can carry your home food, eat it in the flight. There is nothing wrong. It's permitted actually. So court did question this. If airline, which is such a sensitive area of security, is allowing outside food, why not multiplexes? Unfortunately, nothing happened after that. So the court said, let the government decide the policy. So the court threw the ball in the government's court. And government, at times it is quite evident looking at the behavior of the government that there is some sort of nexus between government and the industry. Sometimes industry does a lot of lobbying by various legal and illegal means to influence government decisions. So that's about factors influencing pricing.